Hello guys and girls, welcome back to yet another Try Hard Diablo 3 class guide. So we'll be discussing the Wizard. We'll be going over the 1.0.5 changes, how they've affected the class. We'll be discussing a critical mass build, and we'll be going over how to gear correctly and which stats to aim for on each slot, kind of things like that. So let's get started with the CM build. Now, the reason I'm showing the CM build only is at the moment it's my favorite build, and it's a lot of fun. You can get away with not having much gear and clearing higher monster powers if you wanted to. Now, if you're doing lower monster power, like I'm going to say like 0 through 2 and your DPS is high enough, I'd recommend the Archon build. But if you're doing anything higher, and if you're doing Infernal Machine, I'd recommend the CM build. Now, let me just quickly change a few things around here. I don't actually use that. I use that. Okay, I don't use that. I use that. I was just testing some stuff out. So yeah, obviously since 1.0.5 hits, they did a nerf to the coefficient of Storm Chaser, making it proc kind of all of your arcane power, your life on hit, things like that, a lot less often. I think it was about 4 times, quadruple the amount higher than it was meant to be. So we're not going to use Storm Chaser anymore. Reason being is Wicked Wind actually works out to be a lot better. It sits still on the ground. Obviously, it doesn't proc as much as the old Storm Chaser used to, but it since it does stick on the ground, it kind of all the enemies are sitting still on it. It's constantly ticking and constantly giving you all the stats back that you need, and it's constantly resetting critical mass, things like that. It's a bit harder to achieve since 1.0.4, but it's still an amazing build. So let's just discuss. We'll just go over the talents first of all. So we're going to want Energy Twister with Wicked Wind first of all. Like I explained before, it sits still. You can have as many down as you can within 6 seconds. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. I'm pretty sure there's no cap on how many you can have. So as long as you can spam, the higher your attack speed, the more you're going to have outs within those 6 seconds, which is amazing. Now, Explosive Blast, majority, or I don't want to say the majority, but lots of your DPS is coming from Explosive Blast. It's consecutively just chaining explosions off constantly around you. So as you can see, it just kind of builds up and then it blows up 3 times. So if you can just be spamming that with Energy Twister, which you will be able to, it's quite crazy DPS. Now, your defensive talent, you're going to want to use Frost Nova. This is pretty crucial for the build. Reason being is it keeps everything frozen in place all of the time. You reset the cooldown with critical mass constantly, and you'll have this up every single time, unless you're against like maybe one mob. If you're against one mob, like you're the last of an elite pack, then you might not have the cooldown back up over and over. But if it's one mob, you probably shouldn't have any problems anyways. If you're more than like 2 or 3 mobs, Frost Nova will be up all the time. Now, with runes, I'll talk about the various ones you can use. I'm using Deep Freeze. Reason being is you're constantly, most of the time, fighting more than 5 targets, and it gives you 15% bonus crit for 12 seconds, which I really find crucial. The 15% is a noticeable difference in damage and noticeable difference in critical mass. Everything else is pretty good. I mean, enemies take 15% more damage while frozen. They're frozen all the time. 15% extra damage will be up for the majority. Everything else, you can use whatever you want, really. Cold Snap, you can use. I wouldn't really recommend it. I couldn't see many people having problems keeping Frost Nova off of cooldown. But if you are having problems keeping it off cooldown, you can use Cold Snap. It's up to you. But yeah, everything else, I mean, that's probably the worst one, Shatter. Not really necessary. But I'm going to say, and Frozen Mist, obviously, you don't want to use because it doesn't freeze anymore. I'm going to say Deep Freeze and Bone Chill are probably the best ones you can possibly use. Cold Snap, again, if you're having problems keeping up your off your cooldown. Now, Diamond Skin is, I'm going to recommend just using Crystal Shell. I couldn't see anything else really being great. Like, you're not really gonna have cooldown problems. If you do, I guess you could use Enduring Skin, but again, I don't think you will. The 20k damage is insane. Try to get that one if you can. Now, Energy Armor, I use Force Armor because if I'm playing, I like to just mess around in higher monster powers, and if you're on higher monster powers, you're going to get hit more than 35% of your life, a lot. Majority of the time, you're going to get hit for more than 35% of your health, unless you have like 1,000 resist all, which I don't think most people do. So Force Armor with, Energy Armor with Force Armor is probably the best way to go. But if survival's not your issue, you can use anything else you want. You can use the 5% crit one, which is Pinpoint Barrier, give you a bit more cooldown reduction, and then you can always use Storm Armor. There's a couple things on here you want to use, like Shocking Aspect, for example. Critical hits have a chance to electrocute all enemies or a enemy for 35% weapon damage, which is nice because you're constantly critting. So, but other than that, I mean, I'd preferably go for Force Armor with or sorry, energy armor with force armor is probably the best way to go. You can swap it out for whatever you want, like familiar with spark flint, things like that, but I'm going to say energy armor is the way to go. Now, your force slot, you can use anything you want. Personally, I like the DPS gain, so I use 15% damage. Familiar can be used as well, again, with spark flint, which is really nice, but I prefer force armor with 15% damage. Now, if you want, earlier, like when I logged on, you can see I had mirror images in. I was testing something out. I was using mirror images with, where was it? The one where they explode. I think it was that one, with Mocking Demise, and it seemed like whenever I'd summon out new ones, they would explode, kind of being destroyed. And it was constantly up, like I was spamming mirror image, so it was like adding a bit of DPS on, which is kind of cool. I'm not sure if it was better DPS than magic weapon, but it didn't seem like it. But again, you can use anything you want. Like if you're having problems with survival, maybe you can use teleport, anything like that. You can just toss right in there. But I prefer just the extra DPS off magic weapon. Now with your passives, they're kind of adjustable. I mean, critical mass you have to have in, no doubt about it. Have critical mass in if you're playing this build. Cold-blooded, again, 20% damage while they're chilled and frozen. They're always chilled and frozen, pretty much. So I'm gonna say this is a must, but it's up to you. Now this is the most optional slot, glass cannon. I prefer glass cannon because I prefer the extra DPS, like I said. Evocation is a very popular choice, reduces the cooldowns for 15%. But I mean, I was messing around like Monster Powers 5 through 10, and my cooldowns were not an issue. I was spamming my buttons like crazy, like literally just spamming all 4 buttons with no penalty. So I didn't find the evocation was a problem. Now, blur, you do take the occasional melee hit, and it's going to hurt. But if you're freezing them all the time, your force armor will protect you from that. So blur shouldn't be needed, but if you're having problems, maybe you're not spamming your buttons enough, not getting the cooldowns, you can use blur in case you need to take that extra melee hit or two. Now, everything else, there's nothing amazing. Like again with that kind of mirror image build, I was testing on Illusionist, but that's just my own little thing I was doing. Everything else, I mean, you don't really need. I wouldn't recommend doing too much. Using any of the other ones really. Blur or glass cannon are probably the main ones you want to use. Galvanized ward, you don't really need the life per second because you have the life on hits from your gear. But yeah, guys, that's the build. It's semi-adjustable. You can swap out like magic weapon. You could change maybe the defensive Frost Nova around. But other than that, I just use that straight up build. It's amazing right now. Really, really good. So let's talk about what kind of gear you need to actually get the build to work. Okay, so as you can see, my gear right now isn't, it's nothing fancy. I literally just bought most of these pieces for like not even $1 million each. Like I think I spent like $6 million on this set in total. Just to get this, like, I've been messing around with the build quite a bit. Like I started on my friend's character earlier this week. I was playing his character loads, just hopped on mine, just messed around for like a couple hours on higher monster powers. So yeah, this literally, you don't need much gear to make this build work. It just depends on the efficiency you want it to work on. So like let's say like right now, if I can kill Monster Power 10, I can kill any elite pack, but it takes me an hour because my DPS is only 50k. But that's like the beauty of the build, is it's not gear dependent. It's only kind of, it is, but to an extent. You can get away with spending less. So let me stop rambling and go over the stats. So your main stat is critical hit chance. You need critical hit chance. It's extremely important. You want critical hit chance on every single piece of gear you can get it on. If you don't have critical hit chance on every single piece of gear you can get it on, you're not going to be able to keep up your coefficient on your arcane power coming back at you, and the build just won't work. So I'm going to recommend anything 38 to 42% crit chance minimum. Absolutely minimum. If you have less than 38% chance, even 40%, you're going to have a problem keeping your cooldowns up, or off of cooldown, sorry. It's going to be really, really hard for you to do. So 38% to 42% is what you want. If you can get higher than that, like I'm using Scoundrel for the extra 3%, go for it. So let's talk about which pieces of gear you can get critical hit chance on. Now, you get the most, or well, the second most off your offhand. You can get anywhere up to 10% chance. Well, I guess there's 3 items you get 10% chance on, but you can get up to 10% chance on your offhand. You can get up to 10% chance on your gloves, and you get up to 10% chance on your neck. So you could technically have 30% chance, which is, pretty much there. You're 75% of the way there for your overall crit, just off those 3 items. Now, your bracers you can get up to 6%, helm you can get up to 6%, rings you can get up to 6% each, I think, as well. So overall, I mean, just off those items, you can get a lot of crit chance. There are a few offset items you can get, like there's crit you can get on like legs, and there's like 1% chance you can get on belt and things like that. But I just recommend going for as much as you can on helm. neck rings, bracers, and offhand. So that's probably the best way to do it. Now let's just go over each piece of gear, and I'll explain why I've picked the stats I have. So obviously, on like my helm, belt, gloves, things like that, I've gone for or chest. Sorry, I've gone for high intelligence. I've gone for vitality, all resist, and then on boots you obviously want movement speed. So again, as you can see, I've gone for higher intelligence, good vitality, all resist, and then if you're going to choose a second resistance, physical resist is the way to go. If not, maybe some fire resist, but I couldn't see needing too much fire resistance. So again, intelligence, vite, all resist. Now armor's a good one. Pretty overlooked nowadays. I mean, it's you can find it cheap, but people are kind of catching on at the moment that armor is still really good. So like on that piece of gear, that armor is equivalent to roughly 18%, or sorry, 18 all resist. I think it's 10 per, or what is it, 1 per 10. So it's 1 all resist per 10 armor, which is really good. I mean, that's the equivalent up to a certain percentage, but you won't hit that certain percentage where that's not relevant. So yeah, if you can get armor on there, go for it. And again, it just follows through on all the gear. Intelligence, vitality, all resist. Intelligence, vitality, no all resist, but it's got all the good stats on there. And then the same, it's got intelligence, vitality, all resist. Life pickup radius isn't really necessary, mainly because you won't have too many life problems. Now, so yeah, that's the gear pretty much. It's pretty straightforward, just intelligence, vitality, all resist, critical hit chance on everything you get it on, and we'll talk about attack speed now. Attack speed is extremely important for this build. Reason being is you want to get out as many energy twisters as you can. You can spam energy twister. There's no like global cooldown on it. There's nothing to prevent you from hitting it as many times as you want. So it is actually just limited on your attack speed. Now I'm at 1.8 attacks per second, which is a pretty comfortable spot. I'm happy with how that is. If you can get higher, do it. But I would say 1.8 is a good amount. Now you can get attack speed on your rings. You can get up to like 9%, I think it is. You can get attack speed on your neck, and yeah, I mean, you just want to get as much attack speed as you possibly can, and you can get it on your gloves. So attack speed is extremely important. Critical hit damage will obviously boost your damage quite a bit, but if you can't get like the trifecta, which is critical hit chance, attack speed, and critical hit damage, then stick with attack speed and critical hit chance always, because attack speed is extremely important. If you want the build to work correctly, you want attack speed, and you want a fast weapon to accompany that. That's my weapon. It's absolutely terrible, but it has all the stats I want on it, so I don't care. It has, okay, so life on hit, you want anywhere from 700 plus. If you have less than that, your life will still go up pretty quickly, but 900 is a very comfortable point. I'd recommend 700 though. And then it has an open socket, so I can get my crit gem in there, and it has a bit of intelligence. It has arcane power on crit, and it has maximum arcane power, which isn't the most important, but it's okay. So we'll talk about arcane power on crit. This is a completely necessary stat. Do not ignore it. You need at least, I'm on 14, and it's pretty comfortable on higher monster powers. If you can get higher than that, like mixed in with like a helm or something, do it. But I mean, I'm on 14, and I have literally never run out of arcane power on higher monster powers ever, because you're constantly ticking your wicked wind, and your explosive blast is constantly going off as well. You never dip below 50 ever, and that's just spamming. Like, I'm talking just literally like getting arthritis, hitting diamond skin, frost nova, and my two main abilities. So arcane power and crit, anywhere 14 up, I would say is good. Keep in mind that's if your critical hit chance is a decent amount as well. So that's pretty much it for the build. I mean, it's really simple to gear this build. Again, I'll quickly just recap. You want 38% crit plus, you want as much attack speed as possible, you want 700 life on hit at least, and then you want 14 arcane power on crit at least. All of your other stats don't matter. You could have 1000 DPS and this build would work perfectly. It would just take longer to kill the mobs. So this is kind of like when your gear's getting pretty decent and you want to do higher monster powers, maybe just for that extra magic find. Play this build because you will love it. It's really, really fun. I couldn't see it being nerfed in the next kind of for a while. Like it's pretty balanced. It's one of the strongest builds you can have on any class at the moment for higher monster powers, and it works extremely well with groups of players. If you sit in the middle of the mobs, just freezing them over and over, and your friends are just DPSing, it's awesome to see. You'll have a lot of fun with it. And again, on it's really, really good in an Infernal Machine as well. So yeah, guys, that covers it for the gearing and stats. I am having the budget 3 million budget god coming out today or tomorrow, so watch out for that. That'll go over the stats again, just kind of giving you a bit more clear idea of what to buy on the auction house and things like that. So yeah, guys, if you have any questions about it, just don't forget to inbox me. Let's talk about the 1.0.5 changes and how they've affected the class. Alright guys, so Wizards haven't had the most dramatic of changes this patch. I mean, nothing crazy has changed other than the proc coefficient from Storm Chaser, which was, I'd said quadrupled earlier, but I'm actually reading it right now, and that's definitely wasn't quadrupled down. It was or up. It was about half, maybe 60% higher than it should have been. But yeah, so let's go over just a quick little list here. I mean, like Archon slow time being reduced 30 to 60. See, hardly any of the stuff is really relevant. Like, who used Archon slow time anyways? If you did, I'm sorry, but I couldn't really see many people using it. And then we have like Blizzard, arcane cost reduced to 40. I mean, that's not really going to affect anybody too much. Disintegrate has had a couple buffs in it, just overall just damage. It's a very underused spell. I couldn't see many people actually using Disintegrate. Mainly because if you're going to use Disintegrate, you might as well just put Archon in your friggin' bar and just go for it. I mean, it's the same kind of style. Energy Armor, now they've obviously reduced damage, kind of all of your kind of damage cooldowns, or not damage cooldowns, sorry, defensive cooldowns. Like you have armor reduced from 65 to 35%, and then prismatic armor has reduced by 15% on resistances. Now the reason they did that is they lowered overall monster damage by equivalent, I think it was about 15% on each difficulty. Well, on the main difficulty. So they included monster power in that. It's so they've lowered it just to make it a bit easier. Maybe give you a bit more options instead of at choice. But if you're playing higher monster power, you're going to be using these skills anyways. So it's more for like an efficient kind of lower monster power thing. You just get rid of like your prismatic armor or something. But yeah. So then we have the big one, Energy Twister, proc coefficient from 0.5 to 0.125. Now is that so? Oh, I see. It was lowered. Yeah. Okay. So that was lowered by quite a bit. I was doing the reverse math. So yeah, that's reduced by quite a bit. But then again, just don't use Storm Chaser anymore. Simple solution to that. And then what do we have? Skill Familiar has been not really changed too much, which doesn't really matter. Ice Armor reduces melee damage by 12%, which is cool. That's good, I guess. And then I really couldn't see anyone using Ice Armor ever. I don't know if you do, but let me know if you do. I really couldn't see anybody using it. Magic Missile has just got a straight up DPS boost by 15% on its main kind of coefficient, or just main attack, and then all the other runes have been buffed by quite a bit as well, which is really nice. But Magic Missile isn't really used too often anymore. Anyways, it hits one target with most of the runes, and it's not great. I don't know. I really don't like it very much. I'd rather use Arcane Orb. Meteor kind of delayed the cast between the impacts, so like when you cast the spell now, it's not like a 20-second wait before the spell comes down. It's 1.25 second, which is I think it's equivalent to like Diablo 2 now. Diablo 2 took a little while, but I think it's they've lowered it down because it was quite a while. 2 seconds to wait. Actually, it might have been 2 seconds Diablo 2. I'm not sure. I have to look into that. But other than that, the runes have been kind of some of them being nerfed a bit, like the proc coefficients have been nerfed. Now I think that some of them were pretty crazy with the proc coefficients. I didn't really play Meteor before the patch hit, so Ray of Frost has been movement speeds being increased. Great. I mean, I really don't see Ray of Frost being used ever. Possibly in PvP, but I really doubt it. We'll have to see how it goes, how it plays. Slow time. All the other stuff, nothing. I mean, Spectral Blade's been buffed. Storm Armor ability has been redone to periodically deal 100% damage to lightning to all nearby enemies. Now that is changed. I think it used to be where you get hit, and it would have to do damage. But now does it damage to all nearby enemies? I think it is, which is cool. I mean, Storm Armor is pretty efficient for lower monster powers, which is nice. Teleport now breaks roots, which is awesome. I really like that change. So if you do have teleport in your build, you can just break roots with it, which is really, really good. Other than that, nothing has been changed too much. Passive skills, no. But yeah, that's about it for the patch changes. Overall, nothing too exciting for Wizards this patch. There hasn't been too much exciting for most classes in 1.0.5, just a few changes. I'm pretty happy with where Wizards are right now. Like, I just like that I can log on, spend 5 million on gear, and go kill Monster Power 10 if I'm bored. Takes a while, but, you know, it's cool that you can do that. And it's awesome. Like, I was playing with some friends the other day, and it's so fun. Like, we had 2 CM Wizards in the group, and we were literally just freezing. Nothing could move. Like, it wasn't even fair. We were doing Monster Power 10 Infernal Machine, and nothing could move ever. Like, it was just the most overpowered thing ever. I loved it. I thought it was so fun. Really, really cool stuff. So yeah, that's about it for the patch changes. Like I said, nothing too crazy. We'll see what 1.0.6 brings. I have a feeling Blizzard's going to bring in some pretty cool changes for most of the classes, just to keep it fresh again. It's been a little while before they change the classes completely, so it'll be cool to see what they bring in for Wizards. I hope that there's a couple more builds. I really like playing Archon. I really love playing Archon and lower monster powers. It's really fun just to like slaughter through mobs. But it'd be nice to have something different, just a change of pace, like cast a few more spells maybe. And CM is awesome, but again, it would be nice to have some castable spells that like you shoot at the enemy that go through them, kind of thing. Like you know, like you're actually playing a caster, I suppose. It would be cool. We'll see what they do though. So let's move on to the future guides. All right, guys. So that covers it for the 1.0.5 kind of guide on the Wizard. I have the 1.0.5 budget guide coming out for the Wizard tonight or tomorrow, depending on if I have time today. And that's going to cover a 3 million budget. It's just going to go over all the stats, which I spoke about earlier, but obviously it'll be a more kind of like a getting the most for your money way on the auction house. So yeah, that'll be cool. Now this is the final update of all the 1.0.5 guides. I'm done them all now. Just so you Wizards know, I will be starting with the Wizard guide in 1.0.6. That's how I do it. If I finish a guide in the series, I'll start with that one the next series, just to make it a bit more fair on the people who have to wait longer. But future guides that will be coming out, I have a cool idea. I want to do some legendary guides. I want to go over which legendaries you want to use on your character and which ones you want to avoid using, because there's so many legendaries now. I always get asked, like, should I buy this one for 20 million? Should I buy this one for 50 million? So I'm going to make guides for each class on which legendaries you should buy. Like, for example, I don't know how to pronounce it. Triumvirati? I don't know. I need to Google that and check the pronunciation. But yeah, so like for that one, for example, I want to like just discuss which stats you want to go for it, different price ranges which are available, and just if you want to actually use it or not, just in general. A few more examples, like the Inna's set, which pieces to avoid, which ones to buy. Like for example, like I shouldn't have bought the chest. I didn't know that at the time. I should have bought Natalia's chest pretty much, but that's the kind of things I want to save you guys the hassle of knowing. So yeah, it's just a cool, I don't know, just a fun idea that I had. But yeah, that's other than that, I don't know what else. I've had a couple of ideas, and I will pitch them to you guys in a couple weeks when I've started the Legendary series. But yeah, other than that, that's finished for the 1.0.5. It's been really fun doing it. I cannot wait for 1.0.6 to hit, and I fucking hope PvP's coming at us. But I have a feeling it won't be 1.0.6. I have a feeling PvP will be around March time. That's just my guess, because if if you watch like Kripparrian's video on why PvP hasn't been released, he nailed it on the head. He pretty much, like, the way what I thought like Midsummer is pretty much what he explained perfectly. He nailed it on the head. If they release PvP right now, they're committing suicide. So many people won't be having fun. The top percentage of players will be having a lot of fun, but the majority of players will just not be enjoying themselves in PvP at all, which will probably be the case even when it's released, but maybe not to as grand scale as it will be right now. But yeah, anyways, guys, I'm rambling a bit. Let's conclude it here. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see most of you in 1.0.6, but please keep watching the channel for the legendary guides, and I will have a couple more surprises coming out in the next few weeks. So don't forget to subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video, and feel free to ask any questions in the comment section below or inbox me. Thank you very much, guys. I will see you later. Bye bye.